What's up, everybody? Welcome to another video on the Slightly Modified YouTube channel. And today we got a new project going on. So this right here is my Harley Davidson. Now I don't really post videos of this because it's not necessarily my scope of work. You know, we always do the Japanese cars and stuff like that, but I've had this bike for a while. This right here is a 2007 Harley Davidson Ultra Classic. Really cool bike. The only thing is it's having some engine problems, so we're going to be working on this today. We're going to see if we can yank this thing out. So this bike I actually got from my father. I really like this bike. The only problem is the last time I went out and rode it, she was giving me some issues, and we had to tow it home. Haven't rode it since. It's been, I don't know, a year, and it's just been sitting here. I've been wiping it down, you know, but this bike is literally pointless to be here broken. So we're going to fix it. That's what we're going to do. I've done a lot of research because I wanted to make sure that this is a project that A, is affordable, and B, I could tackle myself, right? So this right here, this is kind of a special bike because the 2007 is pretty much the crossover from the older generation and the newer generation for the touring models, baggers specifically. So this was the first year that they put the 96 cubic inch motor in the touring bike, and this is also the first year of the 6-speed transmission. 2006, I believe they had the 88s or something like that. So this bike's a little special because it's got some of the old things on it, and it's also got some of the new things on it. So that being said, there's a couple things that are a little bit different. The engine, the way it mounts, it's different than the way everything is on the OA Plus. The way the seat is different than the OA Plus. The tank's a little bit smaller than OA Plus. Stuff like that. So all this research that I have been doing, I've been writing down and stuff like that, and I've also been looking up how to take out this motor. And dude, the stuff we do to these cars, these JZs and all that stuff nowadays, this thing's gonna be a piece of cake. Hope I don't regret saying that. So all these people watching this video, hopefully trying to do the same thing to their bike. This is the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to get this engine out and put another one in. So this is a 96 cubic inch. Word on the street is the newer generation twin cam Harley motors, the 103s, they bolt right up to this 6-speed transmission, and the wiring is pretty much exactly the same, minus a couple things. I'm kind of on the fence right now. We might get another 96, we might get a 103, depending on what I could find and the price, obviously. So let's just go over this bike. I'm going to start taking this apart, and that way, you know, we can learn together as we go along. So before I did anything, I've been there's a couple bolts in here that I've been squirting with this good old PB Blaster for the last couple days, and just to make sure that they'd come loose. And that is the bolts that go into the heads for the exhaust. So there's 2 1/2-inch bolts on this part of the exhaust, and on the front portion of the exhaust, 2 1/2-inch bolts as well. And there's a couple pieces that kind of tie this exhaust together. This is a weird exhaust because the front tube kind of just goes back, and then the rear tube kind of ties into the side of the front tube, and then it also goes out the other side. So as you can see, well, you can't really see, but the exhaust comes apart over there, so you could pull that portion off, and then this piece right here, this little Y piece, this will come off of this side. So we're going to pull that off. We have to get the seat off. We're going to disconnect the battery. We're going to pull the tank off. We'll just get the air cleaner off because it's in the freaking way. We'll see if we can unplug all that throttle body stuff. The throttle body's right here in the middle. It's got a bunch of plugs in it, so if we have to take it off, we will. If not, then we'll leave it on. But I don't know which route we're going, but I need to pull this engine out regardless, and I want to start cleaning up the frame and stuff like that. This bike has a lot of miles. This bike right here has 104,861 miles. Same bottom end and everything like that. Now, I want to go over real quick also why I'm actually pulling this engine. So this bike specifically, remember I told you this first year, the 96, the crossover year, blah, blah, blah. They ended up having crank problems because the crank, there's like, I don't know if this is the right terminology, but there's a flywheel on each side of the crank. It's got a pressed in pin that holds the connecting rods for each cylinder, right? So everything's pressed together, nothing's welded, so each side can kind of, over time, can get out of alignment, and it's called crank run out. Now, when crank run out happens, you know, bearings start getting torn up and stuff like that because your cranks are uneven and they're spinning not completely true, stuff like that. So I believe that's the problem I'm having. I'll post a couple videos right now. So as you guys can see, the bike has a super rough idle. The oil pressure is going crazy on acceleration. The bike won't go fast. This is super slow. There's just a lot of things going on. And I know a lot of that could be part of like the oil relief valve. I know they have problems. The plungers get stuck and stuff like that. And they end up sumping. And sumping is basically like when the oil kind of sticks around in the crankcase. And basically what happens is the flywheel's spinning and sloshing around in oil. And it creates a lot of, I don't know what you call it, drag, I guess. And the bike doesn't want to go fast. Long story short, this engine, regardless, needs to be taken out. It needs to be looked at. It could still be good. It actually does run. You know, the bike's just not fast at all. It's super slow. And the vibration is crazy. Anyways, we're going to get back into this. So we got to get the exhaust off. We got to get the tank off. We got to get everything unplugged from the throttle body. We have to get the inner and outer primary off. We have to separate the chain that connects the engine and the transmission together. There's something in there called a compensator that's up front, and then you got your clutch basket in the rear. You have to take all those off. There's a big chain in there. You got to take all that off. So this is going to come off, and this is going to come off. I'm going to have to take this floorboard off. No big deal. There's an engine mount that mounts to the top of these heads right here. We'll take that off. There's also an engine mount down here that mounts to the two bottom bolts of the case here. We'll take that off. If you have a newer bike, you'll have an engine mount up here. I do not. This tank has like this little, it's got a saddle in it. So it's got this little fuel line that connects the two together from the front. So I don't know how much gas we have in here. Let's see. I remember when this broke down, we just left the gas station. So I guarantee you, yep, this thing has a full tank of gas in it. Tough freaking break. So we're gonna try to get around draining the whole tank. So yeah, a lot of talking, but this video I'm actually making it because I want it to be as descriptive as possible, no matter what engine we choose. 96 will just go right in. 103 you'll have to do a couple things, no big deal. Basically whichever one I could find first. Sorry for all the talking. Hopefully that helps anybody who doesn't know shit about Harleys, because that was me like 3 months ago. Got the exhaust off. We got all these wires unplugged from the throttle body. What I went ahead and did was just kind of zip tied them out of the way. So everything from this side of the engine is free except the throttle cable. So there's these throttle cables. There's 1, 2, 3. There's 3 of them. Either you can spend the time, loosen up your throttle cable and get them off, or you can just try to snake in there and grab the throttle body bolts. I believe they're 1/4 inch, so there should be 4 total. Then the whole throttle body would come out and you just throw it up here. I think that's what I'm gonna do. And yeah, and then we're good. Oh yeah, I had to go borrow a tool from work. So this was my original tool for the starter. It is a 1/4 inch hex Allen on a 1/2 inch drive, converted to a 3/8, and then I had it on extension. So that was really kind of a pain in the ass. It wouldn't fit in the right starter bolt. So I went ahead and went back to work, borrowed this one. This is a 1/4 inch 3/8 drive. So it's like way less thick. So hopefully this will be able to crack our other starter bolt loose. Then after that, oh, the primary. I did get the primary off. The outer primary was a piece of cake. The only problem was there's one primary bolt that was being blocked by the foot peg. What I had done was I just broke it loose from the kickstand. I did that. I got the outer primary off, and then here you are down here, right? So let me get some light on this situation real quick. All right. So here's where we're at, right? You have your compensator over here, your clutch basket over here, and then the chain that combines the two together. Then you have your whole starter assembly, Johnny, your flywheel and stuff like that. So a few things we need to do before we start kind of trying to pull this primer off. We got to get the starter out of there. So we got to get that other bolt out, and then I think that should just pop right out. And then we have our compensator. Now, I don't know, I looked up a ton of things. Some say it was a huge Torx, like a T70. Some said it was like an 1.5 inch bolt. Mine, I only really have a lot of metric tools. Mine ended up being a 22, so I don't know what that equates to in standard. But I was able to crack it loose with a 22 with no damage on the bolt, really. And then this one back here, so there's a couple things. First things first is you have snap ring, and then you have your clutch adjustment, and I'll show you that. I already pulled those off. So here's your snap ring. You can get that off with some basic snap ring pliers, and then once you have that out, this is what you use to adjust your clutch. So there's a locking nut right here. I believe it's like a 7/16, and then you have an Allen. Now, if your clutch is already adjusted and you plan on putting a new motor in and putting your clutch exactly the way it was, you don't really need to loosen any of this. This just slides right out. Because when you push in your clutch, it pushes out this, I don't know what you call it, this huge rod. And then this just slides right in there, right? And then you slide your snap ring in. And then, yeah, once you get the snap ring out, you pull this out. Oh, here it is. Now it wants to come out. Long Johnny. I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it in there. I don't know if it's directional, not really sure. I'm just gonna shove that in there, and then we have this big huge nut. Now what's weird to me is I did look it up on the internet, and it says it is a 1 3/16 inch socket. Now I have one right here. I also borrowed it from work, shout out. So but I put it on here. It's got a lot of slop to it. See that? So I looked up metric, and it's a 30. Threw a 30 on there. Has a lot less play. So I think we're just going to go ahead and use the 30 mil. And yeah, so that's that. So we got starter, compensator, clutch basket. So before you do any of that, you have this tensioner, right? So on the 07 Plus, it's an automatic tensioner. And it's pretty easy to get out. All you do is you snake a zip tie around it under the chain, and you keep it compressed. Now you want to keep it compressed so that way when you pull it out, it doesn't freaking try to go crazy on it because it thinks the chain's loose. So yeah, what you do is you do that, you hold it together, and then there's these 2 1/2 inch bolts. So we're gonna go ahead and pull those out. It will give us slack in our chain. So if you just needed to change your compensator, you don't need to take this off. You just undo the tensioner, and you can take your compensator off, and you don't have to take this off. But we're pulling the inner primary off. We have to take everything off. So we're going to go ahead and do that real quick. So hopefully I don't break anything trying to get this bolt loose. I know I didn't mention this in the video, but this nut is reverse threaded. So make sure it's lefty tighty, righty loosey. Don't forget. We have a breaker bar here. We have a couple extension handles. We're going to get it done. And then once we get that off and we start pulling the inner primary off, then we'll get back to you. And just like that, we got everything out. Guys, I am no professional, but I did watch a lot of videos and read a lot of forums, and they say if these tensioners have any bit of wear on them, or they're showing any signs of wear, replace it. So this is getting replaced. Also, I noticed when I took this off, 2 washers fell off. So make sure you keep those with that. And this bolt, it was a pain in the ass to get off. I had to do it with the impact. I sat there, ooga-dooga'd it for about 10 seconds, and it started to break loose. Because this, I believe this is a red Loctite, Johnny. And here's the compensator right here. All this stuff's looking pretty good. I heard you should check the spring tension on your compensator. Now either that's cracked and it looks like this thing's about to freaking explode, or that's normal. But it for sure looks cracked. So I'm really glad I'm digging into this, because it looks like that son of a bitch is about to fucking split apart. The reason why I'm glad I took this bike apart, obviously, there was metal in the oil. I don't know if I showed you that yet or not. Maybe I did. I don't know, I'm pretty crazy. But you see there's metal in the oil just sitting in there. So see all of it? Ain't looking too good. So yeah, and then on top of that, it looks like that part of the compensator slash the magnet for the stator, it looks like that thing's about to freaking blow up too. So what I'm assuming is this this crankshaft scissored, which means it came out of true and it just started jacking everything up in the motor. And I'm pretty sure if I look at the oil pump's gonna be trashed as well, because once that thing comes out of center, you start messing up everything that has bearings in it. Starter, super easy. I just pushed the jack shaft, pushed it right out of the primary. So that's it. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? No way. 5 more bolts and we got this off. I believe the voltage regulator rectifier, this up here, we'll have to see where it plugs in and where it mounts. Then you have the motor mount down here, and then the motor mount up here. I started loosening the motor to transmission bolts, and those, the case pretty much separated from the transmission right away, so I stopped doing that. But all 4 bolts are loose. That was a 1/2 inch, so there's 1, 2, and then same on the other side, 3, 4. Now this throttle body, I've been messing with this probably for about an hour. So with the mixture of this 1/4 inch Allen wrench I cut down, I was able to loosen the 2 bolts over there on the side with the horn. And then over here, it freaking sucked, but I guess I could have used the stubby over here too, actually. What I did was, I kind of made this little swivel Johnny. You know, the one where you kind of stick it in and you can kind of go at an angle. So we were able to kind of snake it down in there and get these 2 bolts out. So the front 2 bolts on the air cleaner side need to come out, and then the rear 2 bolts you just need to loosen because they are slotted. And then this whole thing should fucking come right out. Yeah, sure fucking did. Came right out. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're gonna take this and we're just gonna toss it right over here. Don't want to bend up these lines too much because there's something back there. I don't know if it's cruise control, I don't know what it is. So we're gonna bungee cord that up. And then as for the motor mount, I was able to get that out. I believe that was a maybe it's a 9/16. So there's 3 total bolts. One goes right here, the little Heim joint. The other 2 are actually on the horn bracket, and those go to the cylinder heads right here. Bang, bang. So there's 3 bolts right there. So that's done. 9/16. Then I took off the voltage regulator down here. That was 2 7/16. That bolt and that bolt. So it's kind of hanging. And what I did was I unplugged the voltage regulator and I don't know, is that a crank position sensor? Maybe the crank position sensor. And I kind of just shoved the plugs right here where the stator's at, between the stator and the case. That's out of the way. So literally this engine is 99% free other than this lower mount. So this lower mount, I don't really know how I'm going to do it because it mounts in a few places. Here's a hard mount right here. And then there's a rubber mount down here. And then there's 2 bolts that go to the block. So I'm going to start taking off probably the bolts that go to the block. And then the motor will be 100% free. Technically, it should freaking fall out. Technically. I believe it's doweled in between the case and the transmission. We'll go over that once it's out. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a strap. Not a ratchet strap. I'm going to get one of those pull straps. And I'm going to go around the bottom of the transmission. I'm just going to hook it around right here at the top of the frame right here. Because the transmission, nothing's going to be holding it up anymore. So I'm going to do that. We'll kind of get it, put some tension on it. That way, when we pull the motor away from the trans just doesn't fall down or whatever. I don't really know what's going to happen. So probably leave it for tonight because once I loosen that front mount, there's nothing holding this engine in anymore. So yeah. Anyways, I'll see you guys in a minute. Morning. Last night we had to call it because I didn't want to mess anything up. You know, sometimes you just need a clear head. You got to wait till the next morning. Anyways, I hurt my neck somehow. I don't know how, and I don't think it's a good idea for me to be lifting a motor right now. So what I had done is I kind of rigged this up. I seen online people would mount a plate, an engine plate, to these breather holes. Now, I don't really think it's a good idea, but at the end of the day, this isn't like a car engine. It's a Harley engine. It's not that heavy. So what I did is I just got a long bolt, but I wanted the chain to stay over here because the further the chain is over here, the more stress it puts on the bolt. So I used a socket. I kind of snugged those up. I made sure the threads bottomed out inside of the head. That way we got as much contact as possible. I had this freaking 2-ton chain hoist. Here's my rafter up here. So I got this thing rigged up. I just pulled the trans bolts out right now. So there's a couple dowels in there. We have to separate it from the dowels, so we have to push it forward. The front engine mounts, I have the nuts off of. Now the bolts are just sitting in it. And we'll see if it wants to come free. I'm gonna start, already got, the hoist is already doing a little bit of the work here. Hopefully we can get this engine out safely and not drop. It's not like we need it anymore, but still. Trying to be easy on this old girl. Come on, baby. Motherfucking V-twin. We did it. If you look on the side stand, it almost puts the motor at the complete right angle. That way you're not sitting there fiddling around with it. So this is holding the weight, and then you could just adjust your level, obviously with the engine hoist or chain hoist or whatever. You could just slide your engine in without wrestling it. Now, I'm going to put this down because, yeah, this worked really well, and I would hate for things to go sour real quick. Here it is. My new to me Harley Davidson 103. Whoa, that rhymed. Holy cow. So at this point, I was just going on how dirty the motor was and how I went to clean it. But I didn't mention what bike this motor came out of. This 103 came out of a 2014 Dyna. Now, the reason why I chose a Dyna engine is because the Dyna also has a throttle cable throttle body, just like my bike. The newer touring models, they have those drive-by-wire throttle bodies, and it would have been a pain to kind of convert it and switch throttle bodies and stuff like that. So this one ended up being perfect. Another reason why I chose this engine is because it mounts exactly the way my bike did, and it just made everything really easy and painless, and this swap was just going to be a breeze, other than the tuning, of course. So I just cut open the oil filter right now, and there was nothing in there. Nothing in there. The oil's really dirty. It's a good motor overall. It looks pretty good. It says it has 20,000 miles on it compared to 100,000. This sucker has 100,000 miles, and it still looks cleaner than this one. And also down here on the bike, we got a fair share of cleaning to do here too. I'm gonna go ahead and clean everything on the front of the frame. I'm gonna pull the motor mount off up front. I'm gonna clean all that. Everything in the back looks pretty good. I'll probably dust off the trans, and then I gotta make sure I cover that. And I'm gonna start ordering gaskets. But for now, we're gonna put this pan under the bike, spray some degreaser on it, and we're gonna clean it up because I don't like dirty stuff. Hey, we're back working on the Harley Davidson. So I cleaned up the engine. You guys saw that. So it's pretty clean. It ain't perfect, but she'll do. Once I get it in and everything kind of set back up, then I'll go for another clean. Mainly, what I didn't really get to clean is like in between the fins. You can see there's still a little dirt in there. But I bought this stuff. You know, I used to be a detailer at Harley, and we used to use this shit all the time. Motorcycle engine brightener, S100, really good product. So I've been using this. I spray it down a couple times, you know, wipe it off. I mean, obviously it's going to turn your engine more black, but if there's dirt on there, it's really not going to make a difference. So wiped it off. We did that, sprayed it all down. Looks pretty good. Now I'm just ready to put this engine in. I got this off of eBay. It's a Cometic gasket. So that's what I'm going to use to mate the engine to the transmission. So if you see over here, they got like these little tiny little push-in clips that hold the gasket to the transmission, so that way you don't have problems mating them together. There's 2 dowels on the bottom, so once we get this engine floating, we're gonna kind of tilt it in, get it on the dowels, and then we got our 4 bolts. Where are they? I lost them already. Anyways, they're somewhere. No, those are the old ones. Oh, here they are. We got our 4 bolts right here. There's 2 short ones and 2 long ones. Don't quote me on this, but I believe the short ones go on top and the long ones go on the bottom. So if you can, chase your threads, because there's probably leftover Loctite in them. And I hit these with a wire wheel. So once we put them back in, we'll put some more Loctite on it. I gotta figure out blue or red. So yeah, we're gonna get this thing hung. So I have my rig set up again right here. We're gonna get this thing nice and hung. We're gonna get the engine right back in the bike, hopefully within the next 10 or 15 minutes. The GoPro battery died, so we tried using a phone, and then a bunch of people started coming over. So then I literally just was like, hey, help me put this in. So now I'm just starting to put stuff back together. Went ahead and wiped the motor down again because I don't like my shit dirty. Oh, the oil pressure sensor on the Touring is electronic. The other one is not. So I took this one out of my case, and then I put that one back in there. See that one? It just has like a little push on, Johnny. That one has a plug. Also, what we're gonna do, we put the upper mount back on. So I went ahead, put a little Loctite on those too. We got that back. The engine is fully mounted. And then I got this one back on too. I got these bolts in right there. And I was able to get some Loctite on those. It's really nice. Everything looks really clean. Now what I have to do, we're gonna bolt this rectifier regulator. Luckily, everything plugged right in. Everything plugged right in. And then I was able to take what I did was I had loosened these throttle cable adjusters, and I was able to pull the old cables off of the old throttle body, which is somewhere right here. I was able to pull the cables right off of that, including I'm not really sure what that third one is. I'm pretty sure it's cruise control. I'm actually pretty positive it's cruise control. We were able to pull those off, put everything on. We adjusted the throttle up again, so it has very little play. Got a good snap. Even the freaking old air cleaner bolted right on. Like I said, pretty much the same exact engine, just has a bigger bore. And obviously it's newer and it has less miles. So everything plugged right in, injectors, all that stuff. So I really didn't want to take the throttle body off of this motor because they're kind of a pain in the ass. So yeah, everything plugged right in. The only different thing I noticed was, here's your vacuum line. It goes to freaking somewhere. I don't know, your gas tank or whatever. The one behind it just has a plug on it, and that's that. So we're gonna leave it like that. Hopefully that's okay. Everything else is done. Now, what I did do is I did order the automatic compression release harness, because on this model 2007, I believe they have the revision in the ECU to allow you to be able to enable it, but you need the harness. This one doesn't have the harness. So we're gonna check out the instructions. We just got it in the mail. I'll show you the part number, and we'll go from there. Here is the ACR compression release kit. It's called a wire harness ACR overlay. It fits 2007-11 Dyna 0710 Softails and 07 Touring models equipped with automatic compression release cylinder heads. So I have an 07 that is equipped with compression release. So we went ahead and got this kit right here. I believe if you have something new, any newer Touring, you're gonna have to get a different kit. But for Softail and Dynas, this kit will work as well from 2007 to 11 Dyna 0710 Softail. And it's a basic kit. So for freaking $80, they just give you this kit. Comes with a bunch of zip ties, 4 wires and 2 plugs, basically, and instructions. So we're gonna kind of skim through these. We're gonna go to the bike and we're gonna start pulling it apart. Okay, I'm gonna give this a quick explanation. This is a Touring model, so I'm gonna go over the Touring model, but it has Dyna and Softail models as well. But here we go. So I'm just gonna show you this page because this is really all you need to know. You wanna freeze it, go ahead. Basically, you take your saddlebag off, take this cover off, and it leaves you with all this stuff. So here's your plug for your ECU. I just went ahead and unplugged that, pretty simple. And the instructions pretty much say that you separate this plastic cover by these little clips. You just take a screwdriver, and there's 3 of them. There's another little cover, so you need to take this off. And the way you take that off is these slits have a little black like pin in there. You just push it in with a little flathead. You take that off and it reveals all the pins. So I'm just gonna leave that sitting there. So on here, it says you need to take this purple wire with the ECU terminal on it. You're gonna need to take this purple wire and you're gonna need to put it in pin 15. Luckily, Harley makes it really easy to label. So you see those two little blue plugs right there? Those are pins 15 and 16. Number 15 is on the left. So we're gonna pull that plug out and then we're literally just gonna stab it in right through, give it a tug. And these two blank spots right here, the one on the left, the pin's gonna pop right through and it's gonna lock in place and then you're good to go. You put this back on, you close that back up. So that's one pin. So the other two are the same. So basically what you do is, it's kind of weird. It goes from 2 to 1 and then back to 2, I guess. Okay, so check this out. So basically what I did was I took my harness, right, plugged into my automatic compression release plugs right here, and then I'm gonna feed it right through my little valley cover right here, right? We're gonna feed it through and we're gonna tuck all these wires in somewhere. We're gonna come back down here. There's a few ways you can go. I think there's an exit right here. I think I'm just gonna catch out of this exit right here, and then we'll put that cover back on because this cover is a pain in the ass to get back on. I already tried. There's a lot of wires in here. As you see, this one was previously crushed. We're not gonna worry about that. So these two wires, you're gonna be dealing with this. Now, this is tucked up in there. You see where it says push here to remove? So you push that and then you pull it down. It's kind of tucked up in here a little bit. So when you pull that down, you're gonna get this, right? There's more fuses on here. I already took 2 out. See them down there. So those 2 cover these 2 spots right here on the left. So these 2 in the middle, the empty ones, don't worry about it. We're gonna be working on these 2 right here. So tells you right here that top, middle, bottom, spare fuel pump ECM. So spare fuel pump ECM. So we left the ECM one in, we're not touching it. So as you see the spare on the back, it's looped. You're gonna need to depin those. If you were to buy a snap-on tool, here it is. Snap-on tool part number is GA500A. It looks like that. But I made the tool that they suggested right here. They give you all the dimensions. Basically, I just made something similar to this. They say you can use a Sawzall blade, but I didn't have anything to cut those. So what I did is took a piece of spare metal that I had lying around and I made 2 of these. They're really, really thin. They're kind of flimsy, you know, because the metal has to be really, really thin. So the pin looks like that. You see on the side, it has 2 wings on it. Right there, right side and left side's got 2 wings on it. You need to depress those wings with your pin. Now, if you had the right one, it would look like that. But we have these, so we had to put 2 in there. Kind of keep them pressed together and depress those pins, and then you pull the pin out from the back. And then there's a yellow and green one right here for the fuel pump, right? Yellow and green, you're gonna depin that one. So the instructions say, so we're looking at 3 pins, right? Yellow and green, and then this black, and then this black over here. You're gonna take the yellow and green, depin it, and move it down right here, right? So then you have 2 empty spots. It's gonna be bottom left, and then the yellow and green top right, where this one was at. So we move that one down, and then these 2, we're gonna put these 2 in, and then that's pretty much it. You're done. You tuck everything back in, and you put your fuses back in, and now your spare is gonna be your compression release fuse. So that was it. So if you guys wanna look at the diagram, basically what it shows here is, here's exactly what we were looking at right here. So here are the letters of the alphabet that they named them. So H is previously where your green and yellow is for your fuel pump, and then here's that looped black wire, M and O. So you're gonna put H, depin it, and put it in O, and then you're gonna take your 2 compression wires out of your new harness, and you're just gonna put it in H and M, and then that's it. And then pin 15 and your ECU connector. This is what it looks like. So I'm gonna go ahead and tuck that back in, and then I'll figure somewhere to put that. So wanted to make that pretty simple. It took me a good 20 minutes, half an hour to kind of get everything fed right, pull everything out, clean it up. There was a ton of dust under there, so that when we do take it to get tuned or whatever, or take it to the dealer, if they'll do my bike for me, then I'll tell them, hey, I already did that, and then they can just do the computer stuff. So we're gonna wrap all this up. We're gonna put the tank back on. We're probably gonna try to put the right side of the exhaust on, and then we still have to do the outer and inner primary, and then this bike is done. Been ordering parts. I got the Drag Specialties tensioner for the primary chain. This is 07 to I think 17. It tells you right here. It says 06 through 17 Dyna, 07 through 17 Softails, and 07 through 16 Touring. So my bike is an 07 Touring, and the motor is a 14 Dyna, so should be good for both. I have to use my old inner and outer primary off of my bike because the Dyna I think is longer. I have a whole inner and outer primary kit. As for the compensator and stuff like that, we're going to go ahead and use the one that came out of the Dyna. I believe technically it's an upgrade. So, and then I believe it came with this little gasket right here. We're going to clean all this stuff up. We're going to lay everything on my little towel right here, and we're going to get to work. Really important when you do your inner primary, either buy new bolts or buy new seals. I got this kit right here. It's a Colony. Apparently they're really good stuff. So we got 06 and up Dyna and 07 and up Touring, so this is going to be it. Mainly we need these, but we're going to use everything. I got torque specs written down, stuff like that. And I just pulled the shifter linkage off of the transmission, and there was a small snap ring, a little washer, and then this tiny little shifter shaft seal that was leaking too. And I got a new one off of eBay. This one is a James gasket. I heard this guy, or whatever, this brand is pretty good. So oh shit, used on 2017 through present Milwaukee 8. Fuck, I might have bought the wrong one. It looks the same, and it said it would fit my bike, so I'm trusting that. Oh yeah, it's the same. For sure it's the same. Only thing I'm not too sure on is how far to push it in. The other one was buried in there, so I just cleaned everything here. So once we're done with that, we could put the inner primary back on, and we can start getting everything back together. Thank God. We got our inner primary gasket over here. We went ahead and replaced the gasket back here. That was real easy. I just popped it out with a screwdriver, pressed the new one in by hand. Shifter shaft seal, also pressed it in by hand. The starter O-ring, my kit came with the wrong one, so I'm gonna go ahead and just use the old one. I think it's actually fairly new because I've actually had primary work done in the past, and it doesn't feel flat, still feels good, but worse comes to worse, I think we could change that without pulling all this apart. So we're gonna go ahead and send that. We still have to tighten these 1/4-inch Allens all the way up, so we're gonna do that. But right now, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fit the clutch assembly, the chain, and all that, and just get the bolts snug. I got the inner primary bolts on already. There's 5 of them. Gaskets and stuff, I read online you should at least put a little bit of oil on the rubber surface and on the mating surface of the inner primary. That way, you know, when you tighten it, it doesn't catch and rip. So I did that, went ahead and tightened them to I believe it's 26 to 28 foot-pounds on this specific model. I have a little cheat sheet here that I just kind of been writing on. Excuse my terrible writing, but so here's the inner primary, and here's the bolt sequence: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Starter bolts, 2 1/4-inch Allens. A lot of this is unfinished, but it's good enough. Some torque specs here. The clutch assembly looks like it's 70 to 80. The compensator is going to be a tough one. It's 100, then you back it off 1 turn, and then 140 or 165. This is all info I got off of YouTube, so I don't know which one that is, so I'll have to double check all of this information. So don't you dare get mad at me if it's wrong, but these are my notes. What else? Oh, that's pretty much it. I got some notes down here. I think I pretty much got it all. I went ahead and slapped the clutch assembly on. You basically have to get it on and slowly kind of wiggle it. You don't want to wiggle it too much because there's like bearings and stuff in there, but slowly wiggle it. And I was just kind of tapping it with my palm. It'll go in. Just be patient. Now it's time to get this Screaming Eagle compensator on. I'm pretty sure it's Screaming Eagle. Since I pulled this off another bike, and it's been sitting for a little bit. Just gonna wipe off the surfaces. But the way this goes is, there is, you know, of course, the stator, then the compensator goes on, then there's this sprocket, flat side, I'll wipe off, goes on the inside, like this. If you put it on backwards, you'll know, because everything else won't slide on because the way that the what's it called are. So you have a bunch of these Belleville washers. You got big, medium, and small. So you take the big ones, right? It looks like this one was closest to the compensator side. So you want to put these on, this one on first. Make sure your sprocket's pressed up, because if it's not, look what's gonna happen. It's gonna fall behind there, and then you're not gonna know why your shit's not gonna get tight. So there we go. Put that back on the outside. Okay, 1, 2, and then you want these to act like a spring. So you want the gap to be in the middle. You don't want to stack them. Right? Let me show you. So you want the gap to be in the middle like this, not like that. Too medium. My bike's on the stand, so it's kind of hard to do this in one hand. And then the small one, you can tell it's concave too. Remember, you want it to act like a spring, so you don't want to stack it like that. You want to put it like that. And then basically you have all this other stuff that you just shove on. So I took all this in order off of the bike that I was working on. So here's the outside piece, and then there's a little tiny washer. Don't lose that. Keep that there. So there's a sprocket, and then this needs to slide on the splines. Put the sprocket on the chain, then you slide it on, or else you're not gonna be able to get it on. I'm gonna knock that out real quick. Got everything torqued up. Let's see, for the clutch assembly, I put a dab of red Loctite on there. I've seen people put blue, seen people put red. I just went ahead and put red, so hopefully that doesn't jack me up in the future. But that was 70 to 80 foot-pounds. Real quick, guys, I wanted to add in here while you're doing this, the clutch basket nut is reverse threaded. So make sure it's righty, loosey, lefty, tighty. So I went ahead and did 75 on that. Now we can put this sucker back on. This is our clutch adjustment. And then there's like a snap ring that goes in there and holds everything in place. Compensator, red Loctite. I put a little bit more Loctite on that than I did on the back. Pretty generous. I bought this tool off of Amazon. Helps a lot. Some people just cut up a wood and jam it in there, but this was like, I don't know, less than 10 bucks. Went ahead and bought it because I had to use wood to take it off, and it was a nightmare. So got the right tool for that. It says torque that son of a gun to 100 foot-pounds, back it off 1/2 to 1 full turn, and then you tighten it again to 140. A couple videos I watched on YouTube, some people tightened it as much as 165 right here. So I went ahead and just did 150, and then a little extra. Here's my torque wrench. Got it from O'Reilly's Auto Parts. Pretty good torque wrench. It's been pretty accurate for a while. So I went ahead and used that. So that was a 13/16, and then I didn't have whatever that was. So I went metric on that. I used a 30 millimeter, whatever standard is. I didn't have it. So yeah, now we can put the clutch adjuster back on, and then we can move on to the Drag Specialties tensioner. We installed this Drag Specialties primary chain tensioner. Came with some instructions. So basically you just take the old one out, put the new one in, you torque it down to 21 to 24 foot-pounds, and then it has these two little locking bolts. So you leave those loose, and then there's a bolt that goes in the side of it. You use that to slide this over manually, and then once you get your chain tension, you can go ahead and tighten up these bolts and fold over those little locking tabs. These bolts, they should be no tighter than like hand tight. I think it's like 5 foot-pounds. As for the chain, what I do is I just pushed it down, and then I put a measuring tape there, and that sets my 0, and then I go up, and it needs to be between 5/8 and 7/8 of an inch of chain tension, cold, at the tightest spot of the chain. So I also pulled the spark plugs out, rolled this over, and I kept measuring it until I found the tightest spot. And then what I did from there is that's when I set my chain tension. So now I know that this is about 3/4, almost 7/8, and we're gonna lock that up. We took the bolt out. You don't leave the bolt in there or else it's gonna start messing stuff up. Now we're ready to put our cover on, and then we'll throw all the fluids in the bike. And then also the exhaust. So I got the other side on, but now I gotta get this side on, and then I can tighten everything up. Woo-wee! All right, woke up early, hitched a ride to the shop for my girlfriend, fiance, thank you very much. And I was able to pick up my bike. The tuner did a fantastic job. It runs freaking awesome. So I'll go over, before I go out to the bike, I'll just fire it up real quick for you in this video. I wanna go over like the tuning software and who tuned it, because he did a really good job, and I just want to, say thank you. If anyone in the SoCal area, he's kind of like in the South Bay. I think he's in Gardena. He's really good at what he does. So I'll show you the dyno sheet and the tuning software that he used. So I have this Master Tune 2 Bluetooth adapter. Just plugs right into your bike, and I think you just go right into it. I think the brand is TTS. So you had to buy that, but now it's good. Now when you want to retune your bike, you already have this. Now all you have to do is pay for the tune. The dyno sheet, it actually came with the dyno sheet. See, the company right here is Gene Thomason Racing. Gene Thomason's really good at tuning. I've heard a lot of good things about him. See right here, the max horsepower we have, 76.1. The max torque we have is 93. So 76 and basically 94 foot-pounds of torque. Now, that's way better than the 96. And I know, because when I was freaking riding that thing, it's quick. Not fast, it's quick. Throttle response is really snappy. I got a K&N intake on there, some Thunderheader slip-ons, and the engine's unknown. There could be a cam there, I don't really know. I just bought the engine used for $1,000. So overall, pretty much this whole swap cost me a little over $2,000, with the gaskets, and I got a new rear tire, had to get new spark plugs, stuff like that. So to get my bike back on the road, it cost me a little over $2,000, which isn't bad, because normally, you buy a used engine, they're probably around $2,000. So it runs really good, and I'm very happy with it. So let's go out to the bike real quick. Just drove it home not too long ago, a couple hours ago, and it handled fantastic. I put the engine in, you guys seen that, I put the engine in myself, and then I brought it over to my stepdad's shop at Peak Performance Customs over there in Harbor City. He helped me kind of just wrap it up, just little things, like I had a small fuel leak right here, so there was a bad O-ring, so he had the parts, he replaced that for me. We did brand new Harley Davidson spark plugs. Since this is a 103, he had a bunch of takeoff parts, so he was able to get me the 103 intake football. So we got that on there too. Now it's legit. We got a new battery in here because the battery was kind of on its last leg. The tire kept going flat. We found out the valve stem was bad, but since the tire sat flat so long, it had a bunch of cracks in it, so we got a brand new tire. Other than that, everything's good. No oil leaks. I went ahead and checked everything. It's running good so far. I think the tuner, probably put a couple miles on the dyno. Then we rode it back to his shop. It's another 10 miles. Then I rode it home, another 20 miles. We got about 30 miles in this thing. Let's fire it up real quick. It's kind of loud, so I'll just fire it up for a second and then I'll rev it out. Thing runs like a top. Check this out. And the whole garage smells, but that's pretty much it, guys. I know this is gonna be a long video. If you stayed all the way to the end, thank you very much. Consider subscribing. I do a lot of crazy shit on this channel. And if this helped you on your build, put a comment and say, hey, thanks, man. You're welcome. So I'll catch you guys later. This is Garza from Solid Modified. I'm out. Peace, guys.